Call Halal Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahushai Wahakwadash Rakah. Double honors to the hopeful elect elders over at the Great Millstone Church who rule well. Peace and many blessings be to the hopeful elect men of the Israelite nation out bringing forth this truth out in the four corners of the earth where we have been scattered. Peace and many blessings as well to the rest of the 1/3, the men, women, and children out there. All you true believers of the Israelite nation. Shalom to you. All right. The title of this lesson is going to be Going Through the Motions. And what is going through the motions? Well, simply put, this is something you might hear inside, a competitive setting, by a coach, a motivational speaker type person, a mentor, if you will, someone who knows you well enough to tell you about yourself, or someone who has well enough discernment to see if one is putting or exerting himself forwardly, actually trying to, succeed. All right. So, again, what exactly does it mean to be going through the motions? Well, I did a quick Google search. All right, going through the motions meaning. All right, and it says the definition is to do something without making much effort to do it well. All right, so that means, you showing up. Say, we talking about a practice, just liken this into a sport, and you got to go to practice. And you always show up to practice, but you're never, ever there actually trying to improve. Thus, you're not running full speed. You're not giving any effort in none of the drills that you might be doing. So therefore, when it comes to game time, you're completely behind because you didn't practice at full speed. You were just going through the motions. Therefore, you never prepared yourself for the reality of it all. Which is one of the biggest points I want to make or focus on in this lesson. And for me, in my personal experience, it was very much so that, I was at practice, in the world playing sports or whatever. I was at a practice, but, I let somebody blow past me that had no business running past me, outrunning me or anything like that. And, a coach came up to me, he was like, man, you just going through the motions today. And I took his tone, I just took it by the tone. Like I made the adjustments to, put some energy into it, but I didn't actually understood what was truly being said to me. You know what I'm saying? So through a further meditation on what was said, I realized basically I was being told that, you're not alive out here. You look dead. You're not truly living up to the potential that you have, that you've been given. So going through the motions is that. And they give you an example here to do something without making much effort to do it well. The example is he claimed that he was looking for a job, but he really just going through the motions. So he wasn't really trying to get a job, simply put. We don't have to, go all into it. It's just simply put, are you actually trying to get a job? Are you enthusiastic about going to go do what you're trying to do? When you're at practice, are you really trying to make an effort to improve? Or are you just showing up? All right. And all of this that we're speaking of, it transfers to reality. And reality simply being the truth. The reason for making this lesson, which is, to feed the elect. All right, to feed the brothers, the true, sincere, brothers of the Israelite nation. All right, you Israelites simply being you so-called black people, so-called Negroes, so-called Latinos, and so-called Native American Indian and Seminole Indian, people scattered abroad. That's who this message is to. But that's who this message is for. Those of the sincere of you who have come into reality and are not just going through the motions. Those of you who really realize that this whole walk that you have come into is about life. Because you have to, not have to, but if you look at yourself in the the sentiment of being a spiritual athlete, and that's the reason why I used, the example of sports. We come into the truth, and a lot of brothers I've heard it liken us into spiritual athletes. So ultimately, we look at ourselves seriously, you know, spiritual professional athletes. We go out the way to make sure we're in tip top shape, but we're feeding to the spirit to grow, to profit. That's why we trump any worldly athlete, because they have to focus on their flesh. That's their main objective and goal. That's their means, is the flesh. And it makes me think of this right here, St. John chapter 6 and verse 63. It reads, "It is the spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profited nothing." This is the reason why you trump a worldly athlete, because the flesh profited nothing. It's the spirit that's going to quicken it, meaning it's going to bring you to life. It's going to give you life. It's going to have you not going through the motions. It says, "The words that I speak unto you," these words that we have come to, these words that we forsook the world for, the words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life. So anybody who has entered into this truth sincerely, spiritually, and in truth, as the Lord, commands for, expects for us to worship him, you're going to see life. All right. And you're going to see these scriptures ultimately come to life within these people. And that's pretty much the way this lesson came together, just by simply having a conversation about life. I was speaking to the brother Shariat, and as we usually do, we just have conversations ultimately about life, but ultimately relating it to reality, relating it to the doctrine, understanding these scriptures and furthering it. So when the topic of going through the motions come up, something I experienced in the world, because you take your life experiences, those things that you have gotten to learn from, you apply it. Going through the motions, we can look at that same situation that I was told and look at it and place it here in its truth. The same thing I heard on the dang football field in the world. So you can see the very same things amongst brothers who have entered into this walk, if you will. A lot of people are here just going through the motions. They're just putting a garment on. They just sitting down doing a lesson, but they're not truly getting what it's about. And that's the crazy thing, is because going through the motions is pretty much the notion of not being alive, not actually upholding to your potential. So if you're doing that in its truth, you're ultimately just failing. And that's the complete opposite of what this is truly about, right? You're supposed to come into this thing and get to work and be lively and to be showing forth effort. You are not to be applying for jobs but not wanting a job. No, you apply for that job. I'm about to do the 2-day call back. I'm about to, go in and show my face. And, I'm trying to get the job, man, simply put. And that's exactly how you ought to be in this truth. You want to be getting your questions answered. I got a question. I want to get it answered. If I'm studying, am I just reading through the chapter to say I read the chapter? Or am I reading to obtain the life that's within these scriptures? All right, because just reading through it be you just going through the motions. Yeah, I read. Yeah, I hit the highways. But what are you getting out of it? It's just being profitable to you. Are you making a spiritual come up? Are you stacking up your riches in the heavens? Are you truly getting what this is about? Are you actually alive? Because if you're not, you're just going through the motions. And you hear a lot of brothers speak on this type of thing, this type of topic, this sentiment. But they just don't say going through the motions. But this is what's going on. A lot of people are just going through the motions. You're not truly here. You're not truly alive, because these are the words of life. They're going to bring you alive, those who actually get it. So we go come here to Philippians chapter 3 and verse 11. Is where we'll start. It says, "If by any means I might attain unto the resurrection of the dead." You see, by any means is just the mentality of wanting to succeed. By any means, if by any means I might attain into the resurrection of the dead, because that's what the one is. That's the goal here. It says, not as though I had already attained. And this is the way that you ought to go about it. You don't want to go about something that you haven't attained as if you already attained, because therefore you're going to not be completely showing forth your effort. You know, you're not going to be alive trying to actually obtain. You're just going to be going through the motions. So not as though I had already attained, either were already perfect. That's not how you hit the situation. You go through these things as if you haven't attained, like you're not perfect, knowing that you're not. It says, but I follow after. But I follow after, if that I may apprehend that for which also I am apprehended of Hamashiach Yahushai. All right, so again, you forsook your world. You forsook this world. You forsook your life and became a prisoner of Yahushai, if you will. You have been apprehended. You have been taken out of the world and put into reality. All right, and you're actually here walking in this reality. So the reward of you doing so, and according to you walking, how you walk, if you walk upright, it will be you gaining life. And that's what you're trying to apprehend. And that's the reason that you were apprehended, was for you to actually obtain life, meaning the reason why you came into this truth. That's the reality. Verse 13, it says, brethren, I count not myself to have apprehended. Because you got to remember, the whole topic is going through the motions. You know, so it's all about actually doing these things at full speed, actually obtaining life, and not just being there to witness it. You know, because a lot of people are going to be around to witness a lot of things, but that don't mean they're actually going to obtain and actually get what the whole goal is. Again, yeah, you showed up to practice, but you might not have got any playing time. Yeah, you played on the championship team, but you didn't put no points up. You see, that's the sentiments that you should be thinking of, sort of, in that realm. So, brethren, I count not myself to have apprehended, but this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind. So he says, I count not myself to have apprehended. It's that chip on the shoulder feeling, that Kobe Bryant. You know, y'all just won game 3 of the playoffs. You know, how do you feel? No smile. Why are you not smiling? Job not complete. I'm still trying to eat. I'm still trying to obtain. So, brethren, I count not myself to have apprehended, but this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind. Truly putting off your old man, putting off old ways that are not profitable to you. You put those things behind. That's something you can do. And reaching forth unto those things which are before. So you reaching and showing effort. Standing around with your arms crossed to the side, you know, that means you're content. You're not trying to reach or obtain. All right. And it says, verse 14, I press toward Salakia, the mark for the prize of the high calling of God and Hamashiach Yahushai. So I press forward. All right. Pressing forward is effort, full-blown effort. Because that's what it's going to take. It's going to take for you to not be going through the motions, practicing full speed to be ready for the game. You know, think about that. Our practice in this truth is like us simply studying and reading. How serious is that? However serious you take reading and studying is how serious you might be able to help the next person. You completely help yourself first and foremost, but you going out and teaching somebody with a life in your hand. You obtaining sheep, people under you that you have to make sure are straight. So how much more in this truth than in the world? You see, you have to truly get that this thing is about life. You got life and death in your hands, man. That's the only thing we're playing with over here. So it's all serious. So we can't even take practice light, if you will. So anyway, verse 15, it says, let us therefore, as many as be perfect, be thus minded. All right, this is the mindset that's going to allow you to be perfect. And if anything ye be otherwise minded, the Heavenly Father shall reveal even this unto you. So if you even outside of this mind of understanding this, meaning if you're just going through the motions, the Lord's going to reveal to you what and who was actually going, what is going at full speed, and what obtaining looks like, and ultimately who is doing those things, because you're going to see it through the life within they obtain. All right. So verse 16, it says, nevertheless, whereto we have already attained, let us walk by the same rule, let us mind the same thing. So these things that you already have obtained, hold tight to them and keep on. Brethren, be followers together of me, and mark them which walk so as ye have us for an example. All right, you're supposed to mark those people that you see, the brothers you see doing good works, actually walking. That's who you want to walk like. That's the example that you should be following. That's what it looks like. That's what life looks like. That's how I ought to want to be going get into, because it's going to come to the point where you're going to realize who's going through the motions and who's actually living, because it's all part of growing in this truth. You'll realize these things outright, you'll be looking to fix these things too. And you'll be able to notice it about yourself too. So these are things we ought to consider. Going through the motions. I'm going to close out here in verse 18. It says, for many walk. All right, many walks, many brothers who come into this truth, of whom I have told you often, and now tell you even weeping, that they are enemies of the cross of Hamashiach. And those who are doing so, those who are coming into this thing, just going through the motions, they just hear, to look a certain way. They have their own pleasures they're seeking, their own, their own wants, and it's not according to the doctrine. They're enemies of the cross. And that the cross represents you getting to work, man. You realizing and understanding what you have came into. You taking on the burdens and everything that comes with, walking with this cross, actually walking with it, but ultimately obtaining life by doing so. Don't be one who comes and put the cross in his back just to take an Instagram picture, man. And it's sad to say, but that's true. That's another thing, that I can relate to life. You see these women, if you ever go to a gym, I used to go to the gym, but you go to the gym, a lot of women, they come in just to take an Instagram picture. They come in, they gym outfits, take a picture and leave in 10 minutes. No workout at all. You see, they just going through the motions. So they're not truly obtaining, man. And that's many of them in the world, just an example. But, that's it. They are the enemies of the cross of Hamashiach. And this cross is all about getting to work and not just going through the motions, but actually obtaining. Lord willing, this was edifying. I'm going to close out here. Shalom.